I want to leave these guys with one thought. When I first started engineering, I didn't know enough to know anything other than just put my speakers where they look good. And sometimes I got lucky, sometimes I didn't. What's the one thing that you can tell my friends at home that you've noticed through the course of your career? What's the one thing you can tell them that they might look out to do that would improve their monitoring situation right away?
Well, there's a few things that
Tell us several things.
Yeah, the starting point is to separate them from the surface that they're on. So using an isolation device, Osberger has a small and affordable isolation pad that you can buy and put on any speaker, and it's going to basically isolate it from your console surface, your
really
workstation.
worked,
yeah,
once made a difference when we
once
put
you
them
get
in.
it isolated, it can the low frequency can come out of the box instead of being transferred into the surface that it's sitting on.
Gotcha.
So that's one really important thing, isolating the.
Okay.
And there's so many good products. IsoAcoustics has their various different devices, but even without spending a lot of money, just some neoprene rubber that you can buy at any rubber supply place, cut them up into some 1-inch squares and put them under your speakers, and you're going to hear more.
Yeah, I can attest to that, guys.
Yeah, you're going to get more of the direct signal into the room instead of into the furniture or into the stand.
And what else?
The next thing is really getting that positioning so that, if you can, make them in the middle of the room symmetrically to the left and right wall, and getting the triangle to be right. And
what about front and rear to the wall? Do you like about a third of the way, or the traditional formulas, or?
Yeah, I mean, I
Or
think
is that experimentation?
every room has some different signature, but overall, if I look at all the rooms that I've measured, which is in the hundreds, what I found is that if you're in the front third of the room,
Okay.
you're putting yourself ahead of where the most reflections are going to be. The center of the room is always going to be the culmination of the corners. If you
So
think
that's the worst spot, the center.
the center is the absolute worst spot in general. One of the things that people sometimes have to look at is where their speaker is in relation to the front corners of the room. If they're too close to the
Okay, gotcha.
yeah, a corner is going to act like a speaker in a lot of ways. So the further you put your speaker into the corner, the more the low end and the low mids are going to overtake the high frequencies,
Gotcha.
because you're increasing the energy of those boundary interferences.
What about the floor? Will the floor add low end too if they touch the floor?
Yeah, in an ideal world, we'd isolate them from the floor. So
Okay.
that even the same thing with your subwoofer.
Okay.
And I think a lot of times, if somebody has a 2.1 system where they've got near fields and a sub, our first idea is to put that right in the middle,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But a lot of times that also means that's the place where it's going to interact most detrimentally with phase. And so a lot of times when I'm balancing a 0.1 type sub, I'll move it around until,
That's a headline.
yeah, it's take it just out of the center or turn it to the side so it's firing sideways across the room.
Gotcha.
And the first thing to do is to make sure that you don't have a sense that, oh, the bass is coming from down there.
Okay.
The subwoofer's level is so critical. In fact, one of the things about a tunable speaker like the Osberger systems that we build is that a lot of my first steps is getting each band exactly leveled. Now in the test environment, we have a very balanced test environment with a very open space with very few reflections. So I can, get the level great in my room, but when I put it in your room, now your room's interaction with every band is going to be different. So getting that, so first step is I take all the EQ out of the system and I get the levels to be really on point. So obviously in a non-tunable system, like let's say your pair of near fields, if you like whatever speaker you like, you're not able to necessarily tune those. But some speakers do have high frequency and low frequency
and
adjust.
proximity effect. Yeah.
Right, and obviously if you put not necessarily obviously, if you have your speakers up against the front wall of your room, you're going to get the boundary effect of that speaker and that front wall together.
What does that mean, boundary effect?
Well, as sound gets closer to a boundary, i.e. a wall or a surface,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
you get both the sound of the direct signal and the sound of that reflected signal. So in an ideal world, we'd only hear the direct signal. That's why you say a headphone, right?
Yeah.
In a headphone, we're getting all direct
Yeah,
signal. There's
okay.
no interference. It's
Okay.
the driver's firing directly into your ear.
Cool. I got one more question for you, and then I'm gonna let you go. I know you got things to do, but thanks for sharing with us.
Hey man, I got all the time in the world for you, Dave.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure, really.
Is the old isosceles equilateral triangle, is that still you want your speakers to be an equilateral triangle? So if here's a speaker, then your head should be the same distance from. Is that still a good place to start?
It's a really good place to start. I think the one thing that sometimes people forget is that we're not aiming it at our nose. We don't want to have the triangle so that it's equal in front of us. We want the triangle equal,
So
essentially
what you're
maybe
saying
6
is,
inches behind
if
your
each
head.
speaker emits a cone, if there's a speaker in front of me, you want the cone, the inside of the cone to hit my ear, or the cone to hit my ear like that, or the cone to hit my. I know that's not wrong. So is that what you want?
Yeah, in an ideal world,
speaker over here.
it's exactly that. What we really want is that the speaker's going to come together about 6 inches behind our head.
Oh,
because
okay.
these are omnidirectional devices, and part of our sense of stereo is what's happening behind us. You know, we get clues from the back wall, we get spatial clues from all of it. So, you know, if the image is focused here in front of you, you might get a decent stereo image. A lot of times, if you find yourself leaning forward when you're mixing, try pushing your speakers out another 6 inches apart. And, you know, and I think this is something that's critical for every listening environment, because the interaction between the console, the desk surface, the side walls, the ceiling, all these things have a factor, even in a near field. And I've measured a lot of near fields, and I think as a group of us as engineers, we've moved to having, for a long time we moved to having these near fields because it took the room out of it, and a lot of rooms, it reduced the room's effect. One of the things that's great about a horn-loaded speaker is it does increase the direct signal at the listening position, and takes the room, it pushes the room back. And you know, what we really want is to have we want to hear directly what's coming out.
Yeah.